Hi there, welcome back. Before we dive into the story, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's begin. The sun was setting over the Bosphorus, casting golden streaks across the sky as Emir stepped off the merchant ship that had carried him from Venice. The scent of spices, roasted meats, and the salty sea air mixed in a symphony that was both foreign and intoxicating. He had arrived in the heart of the Ottoman Empire, Constantinople, the city that straddled two worlds. Emir was no ordinary traveler. A scholar by nature, he had spent years studying the histories of lost civilizations, but nothing fascinated him more than the legends of the Ottoman Empire. Tales of sultans who ruled with wisdom and might, of bazaars where one could find wonders from the ends of the earth, and of a palace that held secrets untold. He had come to uncover the magic hidden within the empire's walls. As he walked through the busy port, a young boy, perhaps no older than 10, brushed against him and disappeared into the crowd. Instinctively, Emir checked his satchel, and his heart sank. His purse was gone. "Thief!" he called out, pushing through the throng of traders and travelers. But the boy was quick, weaving effortlessly between the vendors selling silk, saffron, and intricate metalwork. Emir pursued him into the maze-like streets of the Grand Bazaar, past a shop where a man played a haunting tune on a ney flute, past an old woman muttering prayers over an amulet. Just as the boy turned a corner, Emir felt a firm hand grip his arm. He whirled around to face a man in a flowing caftan embroidered with gold. His eyes were piercing, his beard neatly trimmed. There was authority in his stance. "You seek something, traveler?" the man asked. "My purse?" Emir replied breathlessly. "A boy took it," the man smiled as if entertained. "Then you seek more than just a purse. You seek understanding. This city does not give without taking first. But come, I will help you find what you have lost." Emir hesitated. Who was this man, and why did he speak with such certainty? The man turned and walked away, as if expecting Emir to follow. And after a brief moment of hesitation, he did. Little did he know that this chance encounter would be the beginning of an adventure that would lead him into the very heart of the Ottoman Empire's greatest mysteries. Emir followed the mysterious man through the bustling streets of Constantinople, his mind racing with questions. The stranger's stride was confident, as if he owned the city itself. They passed under the shadow of grand mosques, their towering minarets glowing in the fading light. The call to prayer echoed through the air, mingling with the voices of merchants, the clatter of hooves, and the rustling of silk and spices in the bazaar. Finally, they stopped before an ornate wooden door adorned with geometric carvings. The man knocked once. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit chamber filled with books, maps, and artifacts. The scent of parchment and incense lingered in the air. "Sit," the man gestured toward a cushioned divan. Emir hesitated but obeyed. "Who are you?" he asked. The man smiled, pouring tea into a delicate porcelain cup. "I am Halil Pasha, Grand Vizier to Sultan Suleiman." Emir's breath caught in his throat. The Grand Vizier? The second most powerful man in the empire? "I did not expect," Halil Pasha waved a hand. "You seek knowledge, do you not? You would not have followed me otherwise." He sipped his tea, watching Emir closely. "Your purse will be returned to you shortly. The boy who took it is one of our orphans, clever, but he has much to learn. However, I suspect your journey is about more than lost coin." Emir nodded. "I have studied many civilizations, but the Ottomans, there is something different here, a power that cannot be explained by trade or conquest alone." Halil Pasha leaned forward. "Ah, so you seek the magic of the empire." His voice was softer now, almost conspiratorial. "Tell me, Emir of Venice, do you believe in fate?" The question sent a shiver down Emir's spine. He had never given it much thought, yet something about the Grand Vizier's tone made him uneasy. Before he could answer, the door creaked open once more. A shadowy figure entered, a young boy, eyes wide with nervousness. In his hands, he clutched Emir's missing purse. The vizier smiled. "You see, in this city, even what is taken from you finds its way back. But the true lesson is this: nothing happens by accident." Emir took his purse, staring at the man before him. He had come to Constantinople seeking knowledge, but now he realized he had stepped into something much greater, a world where power and destiny were woven together like the finest Ottoman carpets. Halil Pasha rose. "Come, there is something you must see." Emir stood, his pulse quickening. Whatever lay ahead, he sensed that his life would never be the same again. Emir followed Halil Pasha through the winding streets of Constantinople, his heart pounding with anticipation. The Grand Vizier's presence alone was enough to part the crowds, vendors bowing their heads, janissaries standing at attention. The deeper they ventured into the city, the more Emir felt as if he was walking into the pages of history itself. At last, they arrived at the gates of Topkapi Palace, the very heart of Ottoman power. The sight was overwhelming. Domes and courtyards, marble fountains glistening in the moonlight, the scent of blooming jasmine carried by the breeze. Here, sultans had ruled for generations, their whispers of war and peace echoing through the halls. Two armed guards stepped aside as Halil Pasha led Emir through a corridor adorned with gold-leafed calligraphy. They walked in silence until they reached a massive wooden door, unlike the others. It was old, far older than the palace itself, carved with symbols Emir did not recognize. "This door," Halil Pasha said, "has not been opened in decades." He produced a key from within his robes, its surface darkened with age. With a slow, deliberate motion, he inserted it into the lock. The mechanism groaned, as if waking from a long slumber, and the door creaked open. Beyond it lay a narrow staircase, spiraling downward. Torches flickered along the walls, their flames casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. "Follow me," Halil Pasha said, stepping into the darkness. Emir hesitated, but the thirst for knowledge pushed him forward. The air grew colder as they descended. The stone walls were damp, and strange symbols were etched into them, markings unlike any he had seen before. Some resembled stars, others ancient sigils, their meaning lost to time. Finally, they reached the bottom, a vast underground chamber. Stretched before them, its walls lined with scrolls, manuscripts, and relics. In the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a large crystal orb, glowing faintly. Emir approached, drawn to its eerie light. "What is this place?" he asked in awe. "The true heart of the empire," Halil Pasha replied, "the knowledge that keeps it strong, the secrets that must never be forgotten." Emir reached out, his fingers hovering above the crystal, and then, as if sensing his presence, the orb flared to life. A surge of energy pulsed through the chamber, the symbols on the walls glowing for the briefest of moments. Emir stumbled back, his mind flooded with visions, ancient battles, whispers of forgotten sultans, glimpses of magic long thought to be legend. Halil Pasha placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Now you see, Emir, the Ottomans do not rule by steel alone. Knowledge is our greatest weapon. And you, my friend, have stepped into something far greater than you realize." Emir's breath came in short gasps. He had come in search of history. Instead, he had found power. Emir staggered backward, his pulse racing as the glowing visions faded. He clutched his temples, his mind overwhelmed by the sheer weight of what he had just seen. Battles fought centuries ago, voices speaking in long-dead tongues, images of sultans whose eyes burned with wisdom and power. Halil Pasha watched him carefully. "Do you understand now?" Emir took a shuddering breath. "What was that?" "The echoes of history," the Grand Vizier said. "This chamber holds knowledge passed down through generations, secrets so powerful they could shape the fate of the empire itself. And now it has shown itself to you." Emir turned back to the glowing orb, its surface now dim, as if it had retreated back into its slumber. "Why me?" Halil Pasha's gaze was unreadable. "Perhaps because you were meant to see, or perhaps because the Empire has chosen you." Emir felt a chill at those words. He had never believed in destiny, yet standing in this ancient chamber, surrounded by the whispers of forgotten rulers, he could not deny the sensation creeping over him. "Come," the vizier said, motioning toward a shelf lined with fragile manuscripts. "There is more for you to learn." Emir hesitated, then stepped closer. The books were old, far older than any he had encountered before. He carefully ran his fingers over the delicate parchment of one, its ink faded, yet still legible. He read aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "To those who seek the hidden truth of the Ottoman Empire, beware. Power is not merely taken, but inherited. The true rulers are bound not only by blood, but by knowledge. And those who uncover its depths may never return the same." The words sent a shiver down his spine. He looked up at Halil Pasha. "What does this mean?" The vizier's expression darkened. "It means that once you step into this world, there is no turning back." Before Emir could respond, the torches flickered violently, as if a gust of wind had passed through the sealed chamber. A deep rumbling sound echoed from the walls, and the air grew thick with something unseen, a presence. Emir swallowed hard. "We're not alone, are we?" Halil Pasha placed a firm hand on the hilt of the dagger at his belt. "No, we are never alone in this place." Then, from the shadows, a whisper emerged, soft yet filled with something ancient and knowing. "Memory?" "Empire remembers." The chamber trembled, and Emir felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Something was waking. The whisper echoed through the chamber like a ghostly breeze, sending a shiver down Emir's spine. The flickering torchlight cast long, shifting shadows along the stone walls, making it feel as if unseen eyes were watching them. Halil Pasha stood, motionless, his hand still resting on the dagger at his belt. His gaze, sharp and unwavering, scanned the chamber with the precision of a man who had seen such moments before. "The Empire remembers." Emir repeated the words, his voice barely above a whisper. "What does it mean?" Halil Pasha exhaled slowly. It means we are in the presence of something, someone, far older than the empire itself. Suddenly the torches dimmed, and the very air in the room thickened, charged with an unseen force. From the darkness beyond the shelves of ancient manuscripts, a faint figure began to take form. It was not flesh and blood, but something else, a being woven from the essence of history itself. A voice, neither male nor female, filled the chamber. "Who seeks the wisdom of the empire?" Emir's breath hitched. He wanted to look away, but he was unable to. The figure was robed in shimmering light, its face shifting, as if it wore 1,000 different visages at once. Halil Pasha bowed slightly, his voice steady. "We are but seekers of truth." The entity tilted its head. "Truth is a burden, Grand Vizier. Are you prepared to bear its weight?" The Vizier did not hesitate. "I have carried it all my life." The entity's gaze then fell upon Emir, its glowing form hovering just inches from him. He felt its presence wrap around him, not threatening, but measuring. "And you, traveler? You have seen what lies beneath the empire's greatness. Will you walk away, or will you embrace the path before you?" Emir swallowed hard. He had come to Constantinople seeking history, knowledge, perhaps adventure. But now, standing before something beyond his comprehension, he realized he was standing at the edge of something far greater. Could he turn back? Would the empire even let him? Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself. "I want to understand." The entity was silent for a long moment. Then its robes of light swayed as it extended a ghostly hand. Then stepped forward, Emir of Venice, and witnessed the true power of the Ottoman Empire. The chamber trembled once more, and the orb at the center of the room pulsed with a new blinding light. Then, in an instant, everything around Emir changed. Light engulfed Emir, blinding and absolute. He gasped, feeling himself being pulled forward, not by force, but by something deeper, a call from history itself. His body remained still, yet his mind surged through time, carried by unseen currents. When the radiance faded, Emir no longer stood in the underground chamber. Instead, he was floating above a vast empire. Before him stretched the Ottoman world at its peak, from the golden domes of Constantinople to the deserts of Arabia, from the snow-capped mountains of the Balkans to the sapphire waters of the Aegean. Armies marched in perfect formation, janissaries clad in gleaming armor. Ships filled the harbors, carrying silk, spices, and treasures beyond imagination. Scholars debated in grand halls, and minarets pierced the sky, echoing the call to prayer. He saw Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent standing on the balcony of Topkapi Palace, his gaze steady, his mind carrying the weight of the empire. Beside him, his queen, Hurrem Sultan, whispered words only he could hear. Then the vision shifted. A grand battle unfolded before him, the siege of Vienna. Ottoman cannons roared, shaking the very earth. Soldiers clashed, steel against steel, their cries of victory and agony blending into a single chaotic symphony. Another shift, a darkened hall illuminated only by candlelight. A circle of figures sat in silence, their robes heavy with golden embroidery. The Imperial Council. Maps of the world lay before them. A single word was spoken, and entire regions trembled. Through it all, Emir felt the pulse of the empire, an unbroken thread weaving through time. It was not merely power, it was a living force, fueled by knowledge, wisdom, and something more. Magic. Not the childish kind found in stories, but a magic of minds and ambitions, of rulers who saw beyond their own lifetimes, shaping destiny itself. The vision darkened. The empire was still vast, still strong, but cracks had begun to form, whispers of betrayal, shadows in the court, the weight of centuries pressing down, and then nothing. Silence. Emir gasped as he was hurled back into his own body, his knees buckling. He collapsed onto the cold stone floor of the chamber, his breath ragged. The visions still burned behind. His eyes, Halil Pasha stood over him, his expression unreadable. "You have seen." Emir looked up, struggling to find words. "The empire. It is more than history. It is alive." The spectral guardian, still hovering in the dim torchlight, spoke once more. "Now you understand. The Ottoman Empire is not merely a realm, it is a force, a dream carried by those who dare to rule it, but every dream must be protected, lest it turn to dust." Emir felt a deep unease settle in his chest. He had seen the glory, but he had also glimpsed the fall. Halil Pasha met his gaze. "Now tell me, scholar, what will you do with the truth?" Emir's fingers clenched into fists. He had sought knowledge, but he had found something much greater, and, for the first time, he wondered if he was truly ready for it. Emir's breath was still heavy, his body trembling as the images of the empire's grandeur and its inevitable decline swirled in his mind. The power of what he had seen, what he had felt, was more than any book or scroll had ever prepared him for. It was a truth too vast to hold, a legacy so great it threatened to swallow him whole. Halil Pasha stood silently, waiting for Emir to regain his composure. His eyes, however, spoke volumes. There was something calm about him, as though he too had once stood at the crossroads Emir now faced. The spectral guardian's form shimmered slightly, as if sensing the weight of the moment. It spoke again, its voice filled with an ancient wisdom. Knowledge does not rest in the mind alone, it must pass through the soul. But beware, traveler, what you carry may become a burden too heavy to bear. Emir stood slowly, wiping the sweat from his brow. His knees felt weak, but his resolve was sharpening. The chamber seemed to pulse with an energy he could not quite understand. Something alive, something eternal. "I came here to learn," Emir said, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts raging in his mind. "But I didn't know it would be like this. The empire, it isn't just a collection of lands. It's a dream, a living force that transcends time." Halil Pasha nodded. "Yes, the empire is a dream, but it is not a gentle one. It is a force of will, created by the minds of men and held together by something stronger than blood and steel." He paused, his gaze darkening. "The dream is fragile, Emir. It can be destroyed as easily as it was built." Emir's mind raced, pieces falling into place. The vision had shown him both the empire's greatness and its decay, but he had not fully understood its essence until now. The vision had been a reflection of the empire itself. At its peak, it was an unstoppable force, but beneath its brilliance lay the seeds of its destruction. "The empire is held together by secrets," Emir said softly, almost to himself. Halil Pasha's eyes narrowed. The secrets are the empire's foundation, the knowledge passed down through generations of sultans and scholars, architects, and generals. It is what makes the empire immortal, what ensures its survival. Emir swallowed hard. And what happens when those secrets are lost? Halil Pasha turned away, his gaze distant. The empire begins to crumble. It loses its way. But there is a greater danger than that. The guardian, still hovering, spoke again. The empire is a tapestry woven from the fabric of its secrets, but in the hands of the unworthy, the threads may unravel. The question is not just who will protect the knowledge, but who will control it. A heavy silence filled the room. Emir felt the weight of those words settle into his chest. He had come here seeking truth, but now he understood that truth came with a price. To hold such knowledge was to hold the very destiny of the empire in one's hands, and to wield that power could change everything. Halil Pasha looked at him once more, his eyes gleaming with something like approval. You are no longer just a scholar, Emir. You are a keeper of the empire's secrets, and now you must decide whether to guard them or to become their master. Emir's heart raced, and a chill ran down his spine. The path ahead was not clear, but one thing was certain: his journey was far from over. As Halil Pasha turned toward the chamber's exit, he spoke quietly. Come, there is much to learn, and time is not on our side. Emir hesitated for only a moment before following, stepping into a world where knowledge and power intertwined in ways he could not yet fully comprehend. The heavy doors of the underground chamber groaned as they swung open, revealing the flickering light of torches that lined the narrow passage back toward the surface. The air was cool yet charged with an electric tension, as if the very stones beneath Emir's feet were humming with unspoken truths. Halil Pasha moved ahead, his footsteps silent but deliberate. He did not glance back as he spoke, his voice calm, yet filled with a weight that lingered in the air. The empire has always been a balance, Emir, a balance of power, of knowledge, of trust. When one piece shifts, the rest begins to fall. Emir, still absorbing the enormity of what he had witnessed, quickened his pace to catch up. What do you mean by that? How can one man, one scholar, shift the balance of an entire empire? Halil Pasha turned his head slightly, the shadows of the passageway casting his face in sharp relief. Not a single man, but the right man. A ruler, a scholar, a guardian of the empire's secrets. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. The knowledge in this palace, the wisdom that has been passed down for centuries, is the empire's heart. Without it, the Ottoman dream cannot survive. It cannot endure. Emir felt a chill at the thought. The empire, its strength, its legacy was bound to something much older, much deeper than he had ever realized. It was a delicate web, and now it seemed he had a part to play in keeping it from unraveling. Where do I fit into this? Emir asked, his voice almost a whisper. Halil Pasha stopped, his hand resting on a wooden door. He looked back at Emir with a gaze that seemed to pierce through him, seeing not just the scholar, but the potential within him. You have seen the truth of the empire, but there is more you must understand. Knowledge alone is not enough. Power is not solely in the hands of those who command armies. Power lies in who controls the secrets, who holds the threads of history and destiny. Emir's heart skipped a beat. You want me to help control these secrets? Halil Pasha's eyes narrowed, his lips curling into a faint smile. Not just help, Emir. You will be their keeper. Before Emir could respond, Halil Pasha opened the door, revealing the sprawling courtyards of Topkapi Palace. The sunlight poured in, casting a golden hue over the marble columns and lush gardens, a stark contrast to the dark underground chamber they had just left. Come, Halil Pasha said. It is time for you to meet those who already walk the path of power. Emir followed him out into the bright day, feeling the weight of his new reality settling upon him. As they walked through the palace, he noticed the hushed whispers among the servants, the furtive glances exchanged between the palace officials. It was as if every shadow in this place held a secret, a hidden truth, waiting to be uncovered. They stopped before a grand, ornately carved door. Halil Pasha gave a brief nod to the guards, and they opened the door without question. Inside was a vast chamber filled with the most influential men and women of the empire. At the far end of the room, seated on a raised platform, was Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, his regal presence radiating power and wisdom. His gaze fixed on Emir as he stepped into the room, and for a moment Emir felt as if the weight of the entire empire rested upon him. Halil Pasha's voice broke the silence. Emir, the scholar who has seen the truth of our empire, has now become part of its future. The room fell still, all eyes turning to Emir. Some faces were curious, others calculating, but all were watching him with the same piercing gaze. Sultan Suleiman spoke, his voice deep and commanding. Welcome, Emir of Venice. You have seen the heart of the Ottoman Empire, and now you will help ensure that it continues to beat. Emir felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This was no longer just about knowledge. It was about loyalty, power, and trust. He was now part of something far greater than himself. He bowed low, as was customary, but inside his mind raced. How could he, just a scholar, carry such a burden? The fate of an empire rested on the fragile threads of knowledge, and he was now one of those threads. Sultan Suleiman's eyes never left him. You are now part of the inner circle. You will learn things others can never know. But be warned, Emir, once you step into the world of power, there is no turning back. You will either protect the empire's legacy or become its downfall. Emir's heart pounded in his chest. The choice was no longer his alone. He had been chosen, and the path ahead was lined with shadows and secrets. But one thing was certain: there would be no escaping the magic of the Ottoman Empire. The days that followed were a blur of ancient scrolls, whispered conversations, and shifting alliances. Emir, once a mere scholar seeking knowledge, had now become entangled in a web of intrigue, where every word, every action was weighed with significance. He had been ushered into the inner circle of the empire, granted access to the deepest chambers of Topkapi Palace, where the most sacred knowledge was kept. He spent hours each day poring over texts, maps of the empire's vast territories, treaties with foreign powers, codes of law written in delicate calligraphy, and the arcane scrolls that documented the magical legacy of the Ottomans. These texts were not merely historical. They were imbued with a power that felt almost tangible, as if the very ink used to write them had absorbed the energy of those who had created them. The Empire's magic was not the kind of spells told in stories. It was a force that coursed through the Empire's foundations, a knowledge so ancient it predated even the Ottomans themselves. The Sultan's court was a place where scholars, mystics, and diplomats intertwined, each playing a part in maintaining the fragile balance that kept the empire strong. Halil Pasha was his guide through this maze. The Grand Vizier seemed to be everywhere, his presence commanding respect from all corners of the palace. He would often meet with Emir late into the night, discussing the implications of the secrets they now both held. One evening, after hours of study, Emir found himself alone in a dimly lit room, a single oil lamp flickering beside him. He was reviewing a set of encrypted messages that had been intercepted from foreign spies, coded texts written in an ancient language. As his eyes scanned the symbols, something within him shifted. He could feel the power in these words, a cold, ancient power that whispered to him, urging him to understand, to unlock their meaning. The texts were a puzzle, a riddle that would unlock something greater. But the more he delved into them, the more he felt the weight of their significance. This was not just about the Empire's survival. These texts held the key to something else, something far more dangerous. Suddenly, the door creaked open behind him. Emir looked up to see Halil Pasha standing in the doorway, his face grim. "You've found it, haven't you?" the Grand Vizier said softly. Emir's heart raced. "Found what?" Halil stepped into the room, his expression unreadable. The final piece. The knowledge that could either save the Empire or doom it? Emir's hand shook as he closed the ancient scrolls before him. He had been looking for answers, but he hadn't expected this level of responsibility. Halil Pasha sat down across from him, his voice low. "The secrets you're uncovering are more than just history. They are a map that leads to the very source of the Ottoman power. But it is fragile. It is easily broken, easily lost. The balance must be maintained, or everything will collapse." Emir's thoughts raced. Who else knows of this map? Halil's eyes hardened. Only those within the inner circle. He paused. But even among us, there are those who seek to manipulate it for their own gain. The Empire is at a crossroads, Emir, and you have the power to change its course. The weight of Halil's words hung heavily in the air. For a moment, Emir felt as if the very walls of the room were closing in on him. The magic of the Empire was not just about knowledge, it was about control. To wield it was to become more than a scholar. It was to become a guardian of the Empire's very soul. "You must decide, Emir," Halil said, his voice unwavering. "Will you protect the secrets? Or will you become one of the many who seek to control them for their own ambitions?" Emir took a deep breath, his mind spinning with the implications. The Empire's future was in his hands. He could feel it, like a pulse beneath his skin. But with that knowledge came a responsibility he was not sure he was ready for. Yet, as he looked at Halil Pasha, the man who had guided him thus far, something inside him clicked. He had already taken the first step. There was no turning back. "We'll protect them," Emir said, his voice stronger than he felt. "The Empire's secrets are not mine to control. They belong to the people." Halil Pasha nodded approvingly. "You've made the right choice, but be warned, the path ahead will not be easy. There are enemies who will stop at nothing to seize the power you now guard. The Empire's magic is both a gift and a curse." Emir stood, his heart heavy but resolute. Then I will guard it with my life. As he looked out the window into the sprawling city of Constantinople, he realized that his journey had only just begun. The weight of the empire's secrets, its legacy, was now his to carry. And with it came the knowledge that, in this empire of dreams, nothing was as it seemed. The air in Topkapi Palace felt different now, thicker, more charged, as if the very fabric of the empire itself sensed the shifting tides. Emir, standing in the heart of the grand palace, was no longer the humble scholar who had once wandered through the gardens in search of knowledge. He was now a keeper of secrets, a guardian of a legacy that reached beyond the present moment into a time that was both ancient and eternal. Days passed, filled with the constant hum of palace intrigue. Emir's tasks grew more difficult, more dangerous. The secrets he had once studied from ancient scrolls were now part of his daily life, interwoven into every decision he made, every meeting he attended. The magic of the Ottoman Empire, the knowledge, the power, was everywhere, in the very walls of the palace, in the eyes of the people, in the whispered conversations in shadowed corners. And yet, despite the growing sense of responsibility, there was always something gnawing at the edges of Emir's consciousness, something unsettling, a sense that he was being watched. The deeper he delved into the empire's mysteries, the more he realized how little he truly understood. There were forces at play that even Halil Pasha, with all his wisdom, could not explain. It was one night under the cloak of darkness when Emir was summoned by the Sultan himself. The palace was quiet, the moonlight casting long shadows across the marble floors as he made his way to the Sultan's private chambers. Sultan Suleiman stood before a large map, his eyes scanning the territories, his fingers tracing paths that seemed to lead to nowhere. He didn't turn when Emir entered, but his voice, low and commanding, filled the room. "Emir," he said, his tone heavy with meaning, "I have watched you grow in this empire. I have seen the power you hold now, the weight of the secrets that lie within your hands. But there is one final test." Emir stepped forward, his pulse quickening. "A test, my Sultan?" Suleiman finally turned, his eyes sharp and full of something Emir couldn't quite place. Perhaps pride, perhaps caution. "Yes, there are those who seek to disrupt the balance we have worked so hard to maintain. They wish to control the empire's secrets, not to protect them, but to use them for their own ambitions." Emir felt a chill run down his spine. He had known that power came with enemies, but this was more than he had anticipated. "You will go to the farthest reaches of the empire," Suleiman continued, "to uncover the traitors who would see our dream fall. You will search for those who would use the ancient knowledge to turn the tide of history. Only you have the power to stop them." The words hung in the air, a challenge that felt like an inevitability. Emir's heart raced, but there was no denying the gravity of what was being asked of him. He had already pledged to protect the empire's legacy. Now it seemed he would have to prove it. Suleiman placed a hand on Emir's shoulder. "This is not just a test of loyalty, Emir. It is a test of trust. You will encounter those who speak of peace, of justice, but they will hide their true intentions. You must use the power of the empire's secrets wisely. You must decide who is worthy of this knowledge and who will destroy everything we have built." Emir's mind spun as the weight of the mission settled in. It was no longer about knowledge for knowledge's sake. It was about preserving the empire's very soul. The secrets he carried were powerful enough to topple kings, to shape nations, but they could also destroy him if wielded recklessly. Suleiman's voice broke through his thoughts. "You are ready. I trust you, Emir. Go and make sure the dream survives." As Emir left the Sultan's chambers, he felt the gravity of his mission bearing down on him. He was no longer just a scholar, he was now the last line of defense, the keeper of a powerful, fragile legacy that could change the world, or bring it to its knees. The days that followed were filled with preparation. Emir traveled to distant provinces, meeting with trusted allies, gathering intelligence, and seeking out those who had been corrupted by power. His search led him deep into the mountains of Anatolia, where whispers of betrayal had reached the palace. In remote villages, he found signs of a dark conspiracy, a network of traitors working in the shadows to unravel the empire's secrets. The deeper Emir went, the more he felt the sting of the betrayal around him. It wasn't just a matter of politics. It was something far darker. The ancient knowledge he had sworn to protect had begun to change him. He could feel its influence, its whispers in his mind. The empire's power was not just in its knowledge, it was in the very minds of those who wielded it. One evening, as he camped beneath a sky filled with stars, a figure approached him, a cloaked stranger who moved with a grace that was both elegant and unsettling. The figure lowered its hood, revealing a face that was familiar yet foreign. It was Halil Pasha. "You've come far, Emir," Halil said, his voice soft yet full of tension. "But the final choice is yours. You know as well as I do that power is not just given, it is taken. Will you continue to protect the empire's secrets, or will you seize them for yourself?" Emir stood in silence, the wind rustling through, the trees around him. The choice was before him, the very same choice that had shaped the empire for centuries. Would he become the protector, or would he allow the power of the empire to consume him? "Remember," Halil Pasha continued, "the empire is built on secrets, but secrets can be broken. You must decide who will hold the future in their hands." Emir's heart raced, the weight of the decision more than he had ever anticipated. But he knew one thing for certain. The dream of the Ottoman Empire was not just a legacy to be preserved. It was a power to be wielded, and the future of the empire rested in his hands. And with that thought, Emir took the first step toward the final test, one that would determine not just the fate of the empire, but his own.